Hello everyone, welcome back to Home Sweet Home, Alaska. In this episode, Stephen and I have made the decision that it's time to move out of our cabin. With the baby on the way and the railroad blockage, it's just really not safe for us to stay out here for the winter. We have been battening down the hatches for winter, and Stephen has been hard at work building a new shed. Also in this episode, we'll be answering some of your biggest questions regarding the land, the spring, and of course the ongoing railroad situation. So stick around because we'll be tackling some of those hard hitters you've had on your mind. As always, we want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Your support truly means the world to Stephen and I. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Well, since the railroad blocked off our crossing, we're going to have to pitch these over the big berm and carry them across the tracks by hand. Then we'll load them up on the trailer and head up to the cabin.
Given that we are still blocked by the railroad and we don't know what the future holds, it just feels pointless to invest in big improvements that we might not even be able to use or benefit from. So we decided to build our winter shed with as many free or repurposed materials as we could find.
I can't, that's so heavy.
Yeah, this thing's super heavy.
Surprisingly, we have received quite a few comments from people saying that I am lazy or that I don't help enough. So here is a gentle reminder that I am pregnant. With the railroad blockage, it is dangerous for me to do any unnecessary lifting or putting strain on my body, especially since we don't have access to emergency vehicles. Even though we are tax-paying citizens, the railroad has us blocked from access to emergency services. It's not that I am lazy, it's that I am with child, and we are doing our best to stay safe and protect our family. Another scenario where we receive a lot of comments is people saying things like, just dig the berm out yourself, or if I lived there, that blockage wouldn't exist. Well, this isn't the 1800s, and while we love your Wild West grit and your outlaw attitude, a stick of dynamite sadly isn't going to solve this problem. We have a lot of eyes on us now that we are standing up against the railroad. They even installed trail cameras to monitor the area. Trust me, it is very frustrating. But we must put our heads down and follow the rules if we want to advance in cooperation with the railroad. After all, two wrongs don't make a right. As you know, the railroad gave us permission to carry our materials in on foot. It is completely disheartening when weekenders, out-of-towners, fishermen just ride their four-wheelers through and don't abide by the rules. Whereas we, the property owners, have to hike in water, supplies, groceries, all on foot. It's obvious that the blockage exists because of people riding recklessly for fun, not because of those who live here and cross the tracks responsibly just to get to our properties. It is very tragic that a man lost his life while he was recreating on the railroad tracks, but the problem comes from negligent recreation, not responsible residents. Regarding the meeting that we had about the railroad, we had about 50 people, including Borough Mayor Edna DeVries, State Representatives Kopp and McCabe, and railroad spokespersons. All the other property owners affected by the blockage were there as well.
An uncompensated taking of the land. Some of you have already told me tonight, you bought property thinking you could access it, and you can't. what does that do to the value of your property? Or if the hassle to get to it is...
Despite all of us property owners sharing our grievances and explaining how the railroad blockage is affecting our lives, it seems that we are at a standstill. The railroad claimed that they have been in discussions with stakeholders about funding a railroad crossing for us, but we know that to be a farce. It felt like they were just saying that to placate us. One thing that Representative Kevin McCabe emphasized repeatedly at the meeting is that the railroad works for us, the tax-paying citizens of Alaska. The railroad is owned by the people. Right now, we are facing radio silence, and the blockage has made it far too dangerous for us to stay, especially with the baby on the way. Throughout the winter, I will need to call the railroad regularly to remind them that we have not backed down. And I suppose if you would also like to call the railroad in support of not only us, but our fellow property owners, well, I guess there's nothing we could do to stop you. That's terrifying!
Wouldn't you know it, fall's coming on quick this year, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do with all my stuff that I have saved up in my tarp shed. So I decided, since money's a little tight and I don't really want to drop a bunch of cash on building a shed right now, that I'd try to build something out of pallets. Found a bunch of these big long pallets on Marketplace. So today we're going to start putting them together and see if we can figure something out, make it work. I don't have any kind of plans made up, just going to roll with the punches. Try to make it all fit, make it kind of sturdy, hopefully good enough to hold the weight of the snow for the winter time. It was kind of a pain in the butt getting these in here, but they're good size. Some of them are 10 foot long with a sheet of plywood on it, so pretty nice to have. I'm going to use these two as a floor, then start building some walls with these other ones if I can. We'll see what we got. Well, right now everything's different lengths, different widths, so it might be a little challenging to get this all to fit together, but we got no choice. We hauled it all in here, so now we better use it. Sometimes you just got to figure things out, you know. It takes a little ingenuity living out here. Well, first things first is to get my floor laid out. So I need to cut this piece a little bit shorter. this back on the bottom, even it up with the other ones. I had a hard time prying the boards apart, so I grabbed my Sawzall and started cutting through the nails instead. It still took quite a bit of hammering and prying to get everything loose, but it definitely helped get the job done faster. Question is, how do you secure all this stuff and actually make it solid? Working with these pallets and all the odd-shaped pieces was a bit of a challenge, kind of like playing Tetris. But figuring out how to turn them into a solid wall really pushed me to think outside the box and realize how much you can do when you just work with what you've got. Well, this is probably going to be one of the most ghetto builds on YouTube, but we're going to make it work for now because we got to, running out of time. But I'm going to give her a shot. Add some more bracing to this thing.
My clothes fit me.
I said we should go shopping.
Look,
You don't want to listen.
they don't fit.
Well, I know, honey, you're getting bigger. Well, it's finally coming together. Kind of ghetto, like I said before. But it's, it might work actually. Got some 2x4 bracing going up in between these two to tie them all together. The whole wall is tied together now. Got a top plate on these two sections. Pretty solid actually there. Fairly solid. I think once we get this top or this front wall tied together, I need to frame that out real quick. Get a top plate across there. It'll actually be pretty good. All right. I got my walls all framed up. They seem fairly sturdy. I think once I get some plywood on there, it'll really shore it up some, keep it from racking so much, which is going sideways. But I think I'm ready to start throwing some plywood on the outside. Try to get it somewhat sturdy, throw some rafters up, put a roof on there, and I think I'm gonna wrap the outside with Tyvek, which is like a moisture barrier that you would put on the outside of your plywood. I'm just gonna use that because I have a bunch of it, and I'll use that because I need to keep the snow from drifting in here in the wintertime. Don't really care how watertight it is because it's gonna be below freezing most of the winter. And I don't really care if there's much of a breeze as long as my Tyvek doesn't rip off. But I need some way to keep the snow from coming in. I don't want to have to haul in a bunch of more wood, plywood, or pallets to try to fix this thing up. It's kind of a temporary shelter, honestly. I think I'll probably only use it 1 or 2 winters, and then eventually when I can afford it and when maybe hopefully we have some better road access, I'll bring a bunch more lumber in here and we'll actually build a real shed. Actually, I'd like to build a garage, but that's on down the line. So I'm going to use logs as my rafters, and then I've got these big spikes, 6-inch spikes. Hopefully they're long enough to nail those in. Spreading all of my logs 2 feet apart, and then I'm going to run some stringers across going this way. That way I'll have something nice and flat to mount my metal to. I deconstructed a couple of pallets to make a bunch of purlins. Basically, these guys right here are gonna go this way across. Been slaving away for a few hours and I finally got all my purlins done. Now it's time to either put on some sheet metal or throw some siding on. I think we're just going to throw sheet metal on it and see how it fits. I'm going to start screwing in my roof here. I'm just going to throw a couple in, start getting it lined up, make sure I got it straight enough, because with this metal roofing, if you don't put it on there straight right away, by the time you get to the other end, you'll be way off. Just trying to get this line straight and even as much as I can. Same with going down this side. Of course, I didn't cut all my pieces very well. Everything's kind of wonky and different lengths because I'm not being very perfect, but that's okay. Try to use some of the holes that are already in there and tack her in. I guess we're just gonna put some silicone over them holes. I don't know what else to do. Yeah, gotta use what we have, so I'll just silicone them, I guess, and hopefully keep the water out. One of my neighbors happened to stop by yesterday and he saw my little pallet shed build, and I mentioned that I was a little bit short on sheet metal, and he said, hey, I got an extra sheet at my house. So yesterday I went over there and picked up this 24-foot long piece. I cut it in half and it should finish off the last of my roof. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. That's what good neighbors are for. Oh, one piece is just shy. I'll have to double it up. That's okay. I don't know if I'm speaking too soon, but it's holding my weight. It better. It's got to hold some snow load this winter. I'll come out this winter and clean it off so it doesn't get too much snow on there, but it's working. It hasn't collapsed. Let's fire some screws into this thing and get the roof buttoned up, and then we'll start getting some plywood on the outside. Got this cool little tool. It's going to help me figure out how I want this laid out. Okay, so I just traced out where my log is going to be. I can just line that up on the edge of my plywood, trace it out, cut it out. Should fit perfectly. Aha! I win. So close to.
I know.
You did it!
Utilize all the space.
Tess came out here today to help me get organized, and we got a few racks in here now, and it's really getting organized. She's been knocking it out. Much tools, and we'll have a bunch of storage down here too underneath the bench. Nice tall workbench for working on stuff. But yeah, it's actually coming together. We had a big rainstorm this morning and I had a couple of leaks. It was a good test to see if the roof was watertight or not. So I went ahead and jumped up there on the roof and put some more silicone on all the spots that were leaking. Well, a lot of times, guys, when you're building something off-grid, it's not about looks, it's all about function. It's just about getting the job done. Right now I have about maybe at max $250 put into this shed. Most of it is in the plywood for the siding and then a little bit for the sheet metal for the roof, which is actually a leftovers for my cabin build for my roof over there. I only had to buy about $250 worth of materials to build this shed. Used logs from my property, leftover sheet metal, of course the free pallets, and then a few 2x4s I had left over. Yeah, I also used some tongue and groove siding to build a bench. So you got to use what you have when you're living off grid.
Let's follow up on some questions we've had about the spring. This spring actually won't freeze underground and it does run year-round, but the plumbing that we installed is not insulated, so the pipes would freeze in the winter. We do plan on coming to the cabin frequently throughout the winter, and in that situation we will just melt snow. We did not install a ram pump because it won't work here. There's not enough head pressure since there's no vertical drop for the water. So a ram pump, although it's great in theory, just doesn't work in this situation. Everything that we've done on the property so far is pretty much built for summer use only. As long as we don't have to haul water from the highway, we feel that we are doing excellent. It is one step at a time using the resources we have without investing too much money, considering the uncertainty of railroad access. The dreams that we have for this property are totally obtainable and realistic. When we first started our homestead, our plan was to live in the tiny cabin while we build our main house. We would love to build a few more of these small cabins so that guests can come and stay with us. And then since Steve is a fishing guide, he would take them out for the day and then they would come back in the evening to a cozy cabin and I would cook them a homemade meal. This is our ultimate goal, creating a little haven where people can come experience the beauty and the peace of this place. Sometimes dreams get put on hold and sometimes they change along the way, but our dreams are still very much alive. Leaving is definitely bittersweet, but we're so excited for the arrival of our son and everything we have to look forward to in this next chapter of life. And honestly, if Steve and I were able to accomplish all of this with a blockage, just imagine what we are capable of once we have full, unrestricted access.
Goodbye, home sweet home.
So long, little cabin.
Although it might feel like it, us leaving does not mean that we are giving up. If anything, we have even more of a fire under us now, because we want to raise our son to know that you fight for what's right. We want to show him that you fight for what you believe in and you never, ever give up. If you could dream it, you can make it tangible. As always, thanks for watching. We appreciate all of you, and we are so thankful that you're joining us on our journey through this crazy life.